Welcome back. Today, we're tackling a massive challenge in the construction world. What happens when a client asks a builder to not just build a state-of-the-art facility, but to stick around and actually run it for 7 years? It sounds simple, but it's a contractual minefield. This case study shows how one project got it right and avoided years of potential conflict. So picture this. You've just finished building an incredible world-class aquatic center. The ribbon's been cut, you're ready to hand over the keys, but then the client says, "This is great. Now, can you just go ahead and operate it for us for the next 7 years?" It seems like a simple request, right? But believe me, the contractual fallout can be incredibly complex. And just to be clear, this was not some last-minute idea. For this project, the client's demand for a 7-year operations and maintenance period, or O&M, was baked right into the public tender from day one. So if you wanted to win this job, you didn't just have to prove you could build it. You had to have a rock-solid plan for how you were going to run it for nearly a decade after you were done. Okay, so what's the big deal? You just add a line to the contract, right? Well, not so fast. If you just vaguely write, "Provide O&M for 7 years" into a standard construction contract, you create what the experts call a gray zone. And trust me, this is a danger zone of confusion, where even the simplest questions can turn into huge, costly arguments. And this gray zone is filled with some serious hidden dangers. I mean, think about it. When does that 7-year clock even start? At handover? Or when the first swimmer jumps in the pool? How do you get paid every month? And here's the absolute biggest one: defects. If a pump fails, is that a construction flaw the builder has to fix for free? Or is it an operational issue covered by that monthly service fee? Without clear rules, you've got no idea who's managing the staff or what good condition is even supposed to look like when you hand it back 7 years later. It's a mess. So, to steer clear of this entire minefield, the project team came up with a really clever solution. It was a kind of contract upgrade where they basically borrowed the smartest ideas from 2 different industry standard contracts and combined them. The easiest way to think about it is like building a car. The contract they started with, a yellow book, is like the perfect blueprint for designing and building that car. It's fantastic for that, but it is not a long-term service manual. For that, you need something different. You need a gold book contract, which is specifically designed to manage the operations of a facility for years. The gold book is the service manual. And this right here was the big aha moment. Instead of choosing one contract or the other, they took the powerful long-term service logic from the Gold Book and surgically inserted it right into the Design Build Yellow Book. What they got was one single, fully integrated contract that could manage the project from the moment they broke ground to the final day of service 7 years later. So how did they actually pull this off? How did they make it work in the real world? Well, the team focused on 3 specific fixes that took that vague promise of O&M and made it totally clear, and this is the most important part, completely enforceable. These 3 fixes were the pillars of the whole solution. First, they created a common language, so everyone was on the same page. Second, they drew a hard line between 2 jobs that would happen at the same time. And third, they laid out a super clear, objective process for getting paid. Let's break them down. First up, the dictionary. Now, I know it sounds almost too simple, but by adding 14 new, super precise definitions to the contract, they just eliminated arguments before they could even start. Suddenly, terms like O&M Service, KPI Schedule, and Service Commencement Date weren't up for debate. They were crystal clear, which meant everyone was working from the exact same playbook. But of all the brilliant changes they made, one stands out. It was probably the single most important decision they made to reduce risk over the entire 7 years. It was all about cleanly separating 2 different obligations that run in parallel. Okay, here's the crucial move. They established that fixing defects under one clause and performing the O&M service under a totally new clause are 2 separate jobs. This slide shows it perfectly. And the key takeaway? The monthly service fee does not pay for fixing construction mistakes. So, if a light fitting fails because it was a bad part, that's a defect. If it fails because the light bulb burned out, that's operations. Drawing that hard line prevents the #1 source of fights in these kinds of long-term contracts. And finally, let's talk about getting paid. The solution here was to create a clear, evidence-based cycle every single month. The contractor submits a statement with all the performance data, the engineer then certifies a payment, and that payment is simply the agreed-upon service fee minus any deductions if they fail to meet their performance targets, or KPIs. It completely changes the conversation from a subjective debate to a simple, objective math problem. So, with these 3 big fixes in place, the entire project now has a clear, predictable path forward. Let's take a look at how that whole 7-year operational journey actually unfolds, from start to finish. So it all starts with the standard design and build phase, but now the handover, what they call taking over, can't happen until the contractor proves they're ready for operations, with all the manuals and training done. Then, on the very same day as handover, 2 clocks start ticking at the exact same time, the 7-year defects clock and the 7-year service clock. See, no more gray zone. From there, the monthly payment cycle just runs like clockwork, and at the end of the 7 years, there's a formal handback process that guarantees a smooth transition and cleanly closes out the contract. So why does all this contract nerdy stuff really matter? Well, because a place like an aquatic center is basically an operations-intensive machine. You've got complex systems for water treatment, for air quality, for life safety, and all of it needs professional, continuous management. Getting the operations part right isn't just a business detail, it's a matter of public health and safety. And that, right there, is the ultimate result of all this hard work. It's not just a vague promise of service. It's 7 years of absolute operational clarity, accountability, and certainty for everyone involved. I think this quote from the project report just sums it all up perfectly. We converted the employer's O&M requirement into a fully enforceable contract mechanism. So O&M is measurable, payable, and administrable for the full 7-year period. It really makes you think, doesn't it? The next time you see a major public project, it's worth asking who's on the hook, not just for building it, but for keeping it running safely for years to come.